Yeah, Castlevania also came out that same year.
Oof.
Yeah, May 1st that year.
Yeah, again, some of the best music in any game ever, and that's one like that sold me on the Nintendo. I remember going to my cousin's house and like seeing this game, and like I just felt like they were like playing like these ridiculous, horror movie scenes out like right there on screen. It was so visceral and beautiful and colorful. Yeah. I just loved everything about that game.
It's a more traditional, like linear side-scrolling game, but I thought the horror theme was unique for the time.
Yeah, totally.
Sure,
absolutely. If you think about it, we already talked about an alien game. There's a fantasy game, an angel game. I don't know where that fits in, but everybody was making games based on movies and popular culture, and that was one of them. Contra was another.
Castlevania was just like, I think from the horror perspective, like you were saying, that was the hook for me. Like more so than any of those other games, I thought that was like the coolest element. Contra is very cool too. We'll get to that obviously, but Castlevania just so amazing. And I thought the whip was a unique weapon. Oh, the other thing about it to me, and I had a game like this for every console generation, I would be like, this is as good as graphics are ever gonna look. Did you have that for like literally for that? I was like, Castlevania is so good looking, and really, you look at it now, you're like, what was that even? Was that a Medusa head?
Yeah. Oh man, those Medusa heads.
Yeah. I wonder if some of that comes from just like the original way we experience those games is on this smeared CRT screen, and they were programmed that way. They were displayed that way to everybody, and things looked so different. Like now, I think I'm a big fan of like pixel art, and I like what it looks like, but that's not what games looked like then. And I wonder if that helped. I wonder if it helped those designs, because they were specifically designed not to look like square pixels,
Yeah, you're right. The CRTs kind of made everything a little blurry. It looked a little bit more like almost 16-bit, even at that era. So
yeah, it was almost like a painting. I mean, everything blurred together a little bit more.
It's interesting that Super Mario Bros. Came out years before and is known for having controls that just feel so good, so perfect. And Castlevania is much clunkier because you can't change your once you've jumped, you cannot change your directory.
Man, you can learn how to be good at it.
It's just a lot more difficult.
And it made boss fights really difficult. Like, I'll never forget some of the boss fights in that game, from the Grim Reaper, which felt impossible at times, just because all those annoying like boomerangs were coming at you from all these different places, to even Frankenstein and Igor. Igor specifically being the biggest pain in the rear like you'd ever seen. But yeah, between the soundtrack and even like something as tiny as, or you can consider as trivial as a walk animation. Like Castlevania had one of the most detailed walk cycles I'd ever seen in a video game. So that also kind of blew my mind. Interestingly enough, I started with Castlevania 2, which was much more of an open world, like exploration style thing, very similar to Metroid. And then went back to play the first one. I was like, oh my God, this is so different. But still enjoyed it thoroughly.
I love how it pulls out and shows you the map of the castle you're exploring. And it shows you the areas you're going to be going to, and like you go up to the clock tower. And then you get to that bridge in one sequence. I think it's in level 4. And you look in the background, and there's Dracula's like little house, like on the end of the staircase.
Mega Man does that awesome similar thing where it shows you everything that you're gonna do, and then you're like, I gotta get to this, or I can start certain levels, or all the levels, I guess, in some cases.
Some of the side weapons in Castlevania are also really effective on bosses like Mega
Man. I love that both Metroid and Castlevania came out the same year, and now we think of them as so closely connected, those two games.
Especially because as sequels tried different experiments, they ended up kind of overlapping very often, where, like Metroid started as an open exploration game and Castlevania eventually went there, but they both just took really cool ideas almost in tandem at times, and you'd be like, wow, this is, hence where the name Metroidvania came from.
Konami was killing it then too. I just remember like Konami put out Castlevania. They had so many great games at the time, like Jackal, and they just like had this box art, right? And it was like in Life Force and Gradius. It was the silver box.
Life Force,
and
man.
And a picture in it. Yeah, I know.
So good.
Yeah, but Konami was like a huge brand, and so was Capcom, and like you recognized their games, and you knew they were going to be quality games. They weren't all quality games, but I still loved them. Bayou Billy.
I mean,